Testing, testing. Hello, everyone. I'm Norma, Chen. I have to say very sincerely, we're very gratified to see all of you here. We didn't expect, quite frankly, that by 3 o'clock in mid-afternoon you'd all be here, and you are. So we're very, very happy because we think I feel we offer you kind of another perspective. Welcome, Jay. You're just settling in. We offer you something very special, I think, in this panel. There have been a lot of themes today that have resonated with me, certainly, about leadership development, which is what I see we're doing today. And I think we'll be covering some of those, but this panel that we have today is a group of very, very outstanding people who have founded organizations and successfully led them forward to meet their vision. And I think what's interesting about this group from that slice, that angle, that perspective, is that they can tell you some stories about what led them to pursue their own vision without having to ask permission of anyone. And I think leadership can take so many forms. What is going to be very interesting for our conversation to see how these particular individuals had a vision, pursued it, drove toward it, and I think we have a lot that we can learn from them. So I'd like to introduce, or have all my panelists introduce themselves. I have a first question that I think maybe Jay can be the first to maybe lead it off, and we can have a little discussion, and certainly be very relaxed, which I've loved about this this conference, is the authenticity to have this level of conversation with people in a very relaxed way. So the first question really is, what future forward vision that you had that drove you to do what you chose to do on your own and to create something that didn't exist?
Yeah, so I'll just give you a little background about myself. JU, native New Yorker, public school kid, sweatshop baby too. So I've been, my background is capital markets. I worked at Deutsche Bank during the 2008 meltdown. I had to reinvent myself, and what I did next was I just became my own VC essentially. And I invested in hundreds of companies for the past decade. And about 4 years ago, I just said, I'm going to invest in myself. I felt like I could build companies better than anybody else, and my thesis was right. I took my company public last year. It was the #1 top IPO performer in America. So, as an Asian American, that's pretty unique because, it's dominated by older white men, I would say. There's nothing wrong with that because many of them work for me. So the main thing is I just had confidence in myself because I've seen other executives, how they build companies. I would go on road shows with them, and I just felt like, man, I could do this better than these guys. I have a better network. I think I have a better personality too. But I'm a genuine person too. I think because I'm kind of from the streets, I have that kind of honor code. So I've always executed on everything I've said I was going to do. But I tackled the hardest, I would say, sector, which is nuclear energy. I said, I'm going to build a nuclear tech company. That sounds kind of crazy, but I have no fear. So I just jumped into it. I was able to get a rock star CEO, had the criteria, nuclear physicist, engineer. And then I flew all over the world, rounding up what I call the Ocean's 11 of nuclear. You can think about that. And then I was able to convince the top scientists in the world to work for me, raise the capital, and then, the rest is history. But I think it's confidence in yourself and understanding kind of your place too. I think I was ready too. At 40 years old, I felt like I've seen it. I've done well for myself, but I wanted to build it, create a legacy, I would say.
Yeah, my story is different. I'm an immigrant. I came from Hong Kong. And I kind of pinched myself today sitting here and speaking to all of you. When I came to America, I didn't speak English, and I really also grew up in a sweatshop. You know, I remember I went to work in a sweatshop, and I really have to laugh because one leg is longer than the other. When I put a pair of pants together, I said, this is not a career for me. So I decided to stay at school. And I worked for General Electric for quite some time, and ended up gone to my MBA school and written a case study of a company, ultimately bought out the company and did a leverage buyout. And the company developed electronic for the Bradley fighting vehicles and the Abrams tank. So I grew up in the military industry, so I really could relate to the ladies who spoke earlier, being the only woman in a room of all uniforms. And I learned to dress like them. My hair is never this long. It's always very short. I always wear pants. I don't wear heels because you don't want to walk into the room and they think you're the one who's supposed to bring the coffee and tea. And the first discussion I had when I tried to win my contract, they were waiting for my father. So this is Lau Technology, so where's your father? And I was he's no longer with us. I said, well, we'll wait for your husband. Well, he's not part of the business. His last name is not Lau. You're looking at it. So that was a little bit of how I faced a lot of the obstacle, but ultimately I did win the contract in the defense industry, and then I evolved into, like you, that's not really my background. I'm computer science engineer by training, and end up invested in the facial recognition technologies back in 1995. That was even before today's. So when people talk about AI, I laughed because facial recognition technology is AI. And all your driver license is actually made by my company, incorporated with AI into it. But back in time, the infrastructure wasn't there. And Big Brother's always watching. They don't want them to know their face. So fast forward, I ended up doing acquisition, merger, and leverage my skill sets to help other entrepreneurs to achieve their dreams. So my thing about fast forward is, for me, it's about preparation meets opportunity. Our whole life is about preparing ourselves. We just need to know when the opportunity is gonna knock. So you're always gonna have your antennas up. Opportunity is always knocking. You just have to be very alert and know when is the time to strike.
Nice to be with you all. My name is Alan. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Fanatics Collectibles. I think, unlike a little bit of my esteemed panelists here, I actually come from a bit of a privileged upbringing, but I think that for me, this is something that I really, really have to remind myself each day not to take for granted, because my parents gave me an upbringing that they did, but it was not given to them. It was built brick by brick as immigrants, right? They came to this country, maybe like many of you or many of your parents, with absolutely nothing, and they built it up brick by brick by starting their own business. And I think that that foundation is what really fueled me through my own entrepreneurial journey, which is I wanted to build something of myself with my own hands and leave a mark, no matter how small it was, on our society, on our economy, on our country. And when you think more broadly and just think about all of the great richness that is in our country, so much of it was built brick by immigrants. And I see my own entrepreneurial journey as my small contribution towards that legacy.
As you can see, we have some really valuable experiences here to draw from. One of the things that I'm always curious about is how did you sustain your ability to do what you did in the face of, I know in conversations before, Jay was saying, people said you couldn't do this. This is like, how are you going to go into this field from where you were before and make that leap? And I'd like to hear from all three of you, what was it that sustained you, that supported you, that helped you through those challenging times, or those challenging people who said, no, you can't do it, you can't do it.
I'll take a stab at that. I think we touched upon this briefly in the last panel, but I think one of the attributes that many entrepreneurs all exude is an incredibly high tolerance for pain. And I talk to many young people all the time who are interested in entering into the world of entrepreneurship or thinking about starting their own company. And I actually have to be very frank with them, is that it's actually not for everybody. You need to be able to have quite a high tolerance for pain, because when you think about what is the difference between working a corporate job and starting your own company, one of the key differences is that if you work a corporate job, you're gonna have good and bad days, but your highs and lows are like this. As an entrepreneur, your highs and lows are like this. You're gonna have the highest highs of your careers, but you will probably also have the lowest lows of your career. And I think that that's something that you, if you are thinking about entering into the world of entrepreneurship, have to be quite aware of, and you have to know yourself in that journey. And so I think I do have a pretty high tolerance for pain, but I don't think that I would encourage anyone to try to lean entirely on that, because it's a very lonely road to go on if you do your journey of entrepreneurship alone. I think a key part of being successful here is, if you're going to start a company, having a strong set of co-founders who are complementary to you, who can prop you up when either you're struggling or you're lacking the energy or lacking the motivation. Having a co-founder that's there with you every step of the way, I think, is an incredibly powerful ally to have. I think having a strong set of mentors, people who have seen the road ahead and can give you guidance and can help you navigate the challenges that you're seeing, or maybe even completely avoid impending challenge just based on their experience. I just don't want to, no one should underestimate the power of having a good partner in your journey, as well as a set of strong mentors.
So I have partners, and there was terrible partnerships. Finding a partner is like dating someone. I have terrible dates. So be careful what you're asking for. For me, I think earlier panelists talk about, the previous two panels talk about having your personal advisory board, like having people who, you don't need a lot. I mean, because you only need 2 or 3. And I actually have a very supportive husband. He was my cheerleader. Every time I fall flat on my face, he will pick me back up. So he was my biggest cheerleader, mentor, advisor, and I recently lost him, so I kind of feel like I just now relying on a lot of my friends. But I was very fortunate. I also belong to an organization called YPO, which is a young president organization. But if you don't have your own personal advisor, I highly recommend you find organizations such as what AABDC provide, because you do need someone to talk to. So that was extremely helpful for me. The other thing is, life is full of mishap. I have plenty. I mean, struggling to have payroll done. I mean, you know, fail acquisition, fail invention. But I would actually would say that if you haven't failed, you haven't lived. So get a lot of scars. It's okay. I have plenty to share with, because I don't think there's anyone in this room that not have any mishap and any disappointment, because what doesn't kill you is going to make you stronger. So, I want to share with someone talk about the mountain, and I actually am a great hiker. I love to hike, and I did Kilimanjaro. And the reason why I did it is it's not about the summit. It's the journey. It was the hardest hike I have ever done, but it changed my perspective of life. It's not about winning. It's about appreciating the journey, how you get there. That is the most important thing in life. So build your memories while you're doing it. Because someone who talked about the 16-year-old Emma, I have a Caitlin. She's just one of the toughest critiques. If she sit here, she'll be pulling up sign, Mom, stop. So I stop. She's not here.
That's a great point. I always say, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. So I've lost lots of money. I've made a lot of money. And I think I agree with you also on don't trust anyone. Because I became a founder, I felt like things just move a lot faster and I'm able to execute. When you have too many hands in the cookie jar, I would say, it annoys you, but also it just like you guys have different viewpoints. So ultimately, if you know what you're doing and you have one voice, I think you're able to lead like that, and then people will gravitate towards you. Like other lions will follow you, you know. So yeah, I think if you're able to show that you can raise money, you can structure a company, and then you can bring in like amazing people, I think people will continue to follow you on that. But to sustain this long term, yeah, many losses, but in the end, you have to be able to find what you're passionate about. In terms of, my passion is always building and meeting people and engaging with them, and unlocking their value. That's what I'm really good at. I can meet someone and within like 30 minutes know exactly how I'm going to place you or utilize you to add value to me, but then also because you're adding value to the company or to me, you deserve value back. And that's why people love working with me, because I'm not greedy and I share with people, and I don't micromanage. I just got off a Zoom with another executive. I've been looking for an in-house lawyer in nuclear, and he's one of the top guys for a top nuclear company in the US. And I said, look, I don't care if you play golf 1 week, go have fun, but when I need you, you better be there, and you better go hard for me. And he's like, I love that. So I don't get on people, as long as at the end product you deliver to me, I'm all about that. So I think being open with people and also instilling that confidence in that look, I'm in this the long run with you, and I trust you and you trust me.
I want to also reframe that last question. We wanted to get your ideas about how to encourage continuing creativity and innovation at a time right now where a lot of things are disrupted. We want Asian Americans to continue to progress and continue to have their North Star. I'm going to reframe this a little bit. We're now in a time when entrepreneurialism may be something that people say, oh, I always want to do this, let me try it. And where others may say, gee, this is so... Disruption is going to cause people to rethink a little bit where they are, where they're going. Sometimes involuntarily, we'll be having to think about what is my path now. And I think about what Alan said earlier, that entrepreneurialism isn't for everyone, and I certainly agree with that. There's certain qualities that make someone a successful entrepreneur, and you see people around you, just like you had partners that didn't work out. We know there's that special something that encourages people or might discourage people. I wonder if you could speak to very directly to this issue of if someone's at that point in their career where they're wondering, should I go out on my own? Is there some, and again, I don't really want to say advice, but maybe something about their own self-awareness or their own assessment of their match for this that you can kind of direct them? Because I know we've heard a lot of pep talk all day, a lot of advice has been given, but in your unique circumstance, maybe there's something very special you can say to those people who are really wondering what to do next.
I don't know if this is the what you do next, or is this about advising an entrepreneur, because it's two separate questions, so.
I give you a choice.
Okay, I leave it to my esteemed Jay here to talk about, and Alan to say, don't do it, do it. There's no right answer, right? But I want to talk about the future, because this is what this panel is, and it's getting late in the day, and I'm sure you want to have a drink. So I'm going to give a plug for John, because I created an organization back about 2020 when I used to live in South Carolina, and I started this at College of Charleston, which is called Women for Women Summit. The reason why I created that was I noticed how my daughter, I started my career early on, like her, and I was trying to navigate my career. And I was watching her doing the same thing. And I said, how could it be? How could that, so many years have passed, she still had to navigate like I used to navigate, not trusting who to go to in the corporation. You work for big corporations, you try to figure out, okay, Mom, well, I'm really not happy with this, department. This is a big company, go talk to HR. Mom, HR doesn't, how can I trust HR? They work for the company. So there's always this, who do I talk to, okay? So I realize, not just women, even men, when you join a company and first 2-3 years, you learn it. Then all of a sudden you hit a plateau, and then you say, okay, how do I navigate? And especially today, it's about working remotely. You're in a box. They see you in the box. You don't have social hours. You don't have a community. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit old and say not understand the generation gap. They have a community, but it's different than ours. So I created this organization really is to help women, and not just like entrepreneur, but women in general, how do you navigate your career. But I started with this vision of 4 things, and I was just thinking exactly what John was doing. My vision was, first and foremost, you celebrate. You celebrate. So if you don't celebrate women, or in your case, the 50 Asian American business, when you celebrate them, it's to recognize your achievement, and you're one of them. Many of you were one of the top 50, so you celebrate. Then the second thing you need to do is exactly what you guys are doing right now, elevate. Why are we sitting here? Why are you listening to us? Because you elevated us. You make us subject matter expert. So think about it, celebrate, elevate, then what do? You connect. Otherwise, just celebrating, elevating yourself doesn't close the boat. You connect. And this is why you're the round table business. Why not optimize, maximize? You giving them a gift, have them pay it back. It's only fair. But last but not least, I think the most important thing when you walk out of here is, what can I do to create opportunity for each other and be an advocate? I mean, seriously, I do women are tough because why? I work hard to get here. Why should you have it so easy? Right? I told my daughter, I work hard to get here. So stop complaining. But you know what? Deep down, it's getting harder and harder. So.
I guess I could help entrepreneurs, like you said, connect with what they're doing by just being brutally honest with them. Like I said, I can tell right away if they're going to succeed or not. In terms of what they're looking to do, it's just my honest opinion as an investor. That's what I'll be able to give to people. Like for example, many years ago, one of my college friends, he was like, wow, how do you do this? How do you create this? And I know he's super cheap, right? He's a really cheap guy, like my mom, right? And she's always saving every penny. And I retired her, by the way, like, many years ago. So I'm a good son for that. But anyway, he was, I just knew he was super cheap, and he wanted to learn trading and stocks, and I just knew he was gonna fail just because he's cheap. He's not a risk taker. So don't get into something that that's not your personality. Like, you're not gonna trade and make $50,000 a day or 10,000 or 4. Just is not built in you. So just stay away from that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just pursue something else, or some people just like to be comfortable and have a high-paying job and good health care and good retirement. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, so, I mean, me, myself, I'll just be brutally honest with you. Number one thing I always say is, when do I get my money back? That's what I always say. So I get bombarded with, like, hey, invest in my seed round or this or that. And I go, no problem. But when am I going to get my money back? And then you have to tell me how you're going to get me my money back with returns on it, right? Like, so if you're not prepared to do that, don't even talk to me. And that's how brutally honest I am. I'm just like, when am I going to get my money back, and tell me the time and how much am I going to make? Because in the end, that's what you're doing. You're investing. Unless it's a passion project or you're doing it for charity, that's different. But if it's strictly for investments, then yeah, that's what I'm.
I'll maybe share just like a final thought, maybe to give those who are thinking about what might be next in their career a bit of hope. In my role, I think every single week I probably get asked, what's AI going to do to jobs? And I think it's a very, very hard question to answer, but I think underneath the question is just a lot of uncertainty about what is the future of work, what is the future of our economy. I think all of us probably have some of those thoughts bubbling under the surface at some level. And the reality is I don't know the answer. I don't think anybody truly knows the answer, but I don't want to discount the resilience and creativity and ingenuity of mankind. I think mankind has gone through many, many interesting, different hardships in the past, and I think in every single instance, we've all collectively, as a world, stepped up to the challenge. And maybe sometimes you gotta take a few steps backwards before you can go forward, and there's gonna be some hard times along the way before you emerge, you know, from that season. But I just want to give everybody a bit of hope as you think about what might be next in your career, that people are fundamentally very, very creative, very, very resilient, including all of you here. And so as much as I would want to give you some level of certainty about, are these jobs going to be still around? Are those jobs going to be around? I don't know, but I think that all of us need to have some level of hope that there will be opportunities created, and that good work, ingenuity, creativity will be rewarded in some way. And so that is the encouragement that I would give to you.
What I'm hearing too is the optimism that is always associated with being an entrepreneur. To take risks, you have to go through a process, you have to be brutally honest, and to do that, you have to have some positive view that this is going to work out, even through all the failures that you must go through in order to be successful at the level that these three wonderful colleagues have been. So I think this is really very helpful for all of us, I think, as a way to kind of pull together a lot of what went on today. I hear a lot of the same themes, but through another lens. I want to open the floor up to any questions that might have perked up in your mind as we were speaking in the panel. Yes, right here. Thank you. I got it.
Thank you for a lovely conversation. The question that I have for you guys is, like you rightly said, that the journey of an entrepreneur is that of peaks and valleys. So can you share an example when you were in one of your valleys and all encircled in self-doubt? How did you overcome that and start climbing the mountain again?
Doubt. There's always doubt. I think there, for me, speaking about myself, I always have a what if scenarios. What if? I don't dive right in. I do have a what if scenarios when I kind of do a little bit of a calculated risk as an entrepreneur. Because I think if you don't have and if someone come to me and say, well, I want to start this business, and after 3 questions, like Jay said, you will know whether you have the guts, you have the right stuff. Because one, you must prepare, and so I was prepared, and I did not prepare for failure, because I would say, what does it take for me to break even? If I could break even, I could work harder. But if I know I couldn't break even, I would have to find out alternative plan. So being an entrepreneur, I mean, that's a really sexy word. Bottom line is, we are all entrepreneurs in our own way, okay? When you're at home, whatever you do today, everything you do, you are an entrepreneur. It's a matter of now, you have stakeholders. When you do work for yourself, the only person you have to answer to is the person in the mirror. But all of a sudden, as soon as you start taking other people's money, yeah, then the problem will get bigger. So that's why I said, finding partner, taking money, you gotta know what kind of return you're able to generate, what their demand, how's that gonna change your vision. So, not all things are pretty.
I'll share a cool story, I would say. When I left the bank, I had some money saved up. So I invested in actually a Chinese guy from Canada. And I was like, oh, he's Chinese. He's not going to screw me over. Right? And then, yeah, you know, a lot of people are. But, so, you know, I went to Canada. I met him. He took me in his red Ferrari, Spider Ferrari. And he's like, and I'm like, wow, I'm in a Ferrari, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like showing me kind of, you know, his scene. And I was like, okay, he's like, invest in my company. And, you know, then you're going to get one too. And you're going to, so then, you know, I brought in my friends to the investment as well. We were doing good. Everything was looking fine until he kind of pulled the rug on us. And that was like one of the, I would say, bottom times in my life, just because it wasn't more of my money, it was more of my friends' money. So that's when it weighs on you, when you bring in friends or family and you let them to a wrong investment. I would say that was the hardest times because you feel responsible for that. So you try to make that up in the future. But that is a story that you just have to remember. This is why I do things myself, because you learn from that process, and I feel, and that's why I just want to, you know, build companies myself and invest in myself, because I can trust that I'm going to do the right thing for people. But yeah, that was one low, I would say, and then the high is just, you know, like I've always been good at. Recently, I would say the past decade, predicting future markets, like trends. So, like for instance, I was in London, and one of the richest areas in London is Mayfair. So I was sitting there with a hedge fund friend of mine, and I was like, gold was at 900 an ounce, and I was like, no, I think it's going to go higher. So I encouraged him. I'm like, look, let's build a gold company, and then I named it Mayfair Gold. It eventually listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. It's still at, you know, I'm a passive investor, but it's still at, I think, over 200 million market cap. But it just happened at that moment, and then I acted upon it. But once again, I believed in myself, so I had to start it myself. But then he came in and he said, look, I'll take it over. But I think timing also, with what you guys want to do. Like my timing in nuclear was incredible. All the big tech companies started pouring in because of AI and data centers and the need for energy. I would say that propelled my company, but it's timing too. It's timing and trends and knowing what is going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years, and you want to put yourself in a position to succeed.
Do you want to say anything, or should I get another question?
We'll go very, very quickly.
Okay.
I remember in the last company that I started, we had landed our first big customer, and it was the day before we were supposed to deliver the thing to them, and we just could not get it to work. And I remember inching closer to the end of business, couldn't get this thing done. You know, 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm there with the team in the deepest pits of despair, feeling like we're gonna let down our first big customer, and everything just feels like the world is closing in on you in those moments, right? right? Very short-sighted, but when it's 3 a.m. in the morning and you can't get something done, everything feels very, very, hard. And I remember I had to stay up, I was on the West Coast, the customer was on the East Coast, stayed up until 5 a.m., had to call the customer to tell them, hey, we weren't going to be able to deliver this thing today. But they were ultimately really understanding because they said, hey, we invested in this because we believe in you, not because you were going to do something today, right? It doesn't matter if it's Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. They made a bet on us that we could build something of value for them. And I think that was a really, really interesting moment for me to go from the very, very bottom to what felt like a very, very motivating moment, which is that if you can find the right people to work with, you got to find people who believe in you, not what you can output, right? That they're not looking to extract transactional value out of you, but they're trying to partner with you because of the value that you bring into a certain situation. And so within a 24-hour period, I went from a very, very low to a very, very high. And I think that was very emblematic of my entire entrepreneurial journey. So it's just a fun anecdote.
Yes, in some sense, your clients are your partners.
Yeah.
When they believe in you, they'll work with you.
Yeah.
They know the value is there. It's great. Any other questions? We're almost at time because we have to get a shot, I understand. We have to fit in a little photo. So, any other questions? I think your hand is, oh no, your hand's up, okay.
Hi, my name is Alok. Quick question for you. I know we have talked a lot about dealing with failures, how you come back after failure. What about dealing with success? I think I read somewhere that success increases your confidence, not necessarily your ability. How do you keep yourself grounded when you have been successful for too long and also make sure you continue your focus?
The higher you climb, the harder you fall. I experienced that. The reason is when I first took the company public, this is when I say sometimes you get partners. My partners got greedy. So literally blackmail me for not able to take the company public unless I buy them out, put them on the board. So there's, you better have a good lawyer. So success comes with a lot of burdens as well. I think a lot of us prepare ourselves from failure, and thank you for asking that question, because we Chinese always believe in yin and yang, right? So it is unbelievable. Congratulations, and thank you so much for asking that, because we always talk about taking risks, failure. We hardly talk about success. Why are we so humble, my fellow Asian American? Because we are brought up that way, that we don't brag, we don't, well done. But I think we should celebrate success. But while you prepare for failure, you really truly have to prepare for success as well, because when you're successful, like Jay, his investor's gonna come in, what is the next big thing, Jay? Here's a tons of money. So
I already
Jay, what's
have it,
the
by the
big
way.
thing?
You talked about military, so I have something for you.
All right, we all have to invest in Jay now.
Yeah, another way that has been told to me is that, a lot of people start up firms, but it's the growth. Growth is much harder to deal with than startup, which in itself is difficult. So same idea. Okay, well, we're going to close out now. We really appreciate your all having stayed. This is really, really wonderful for us, and I hope it's been valuable to you. And we will see you at cocktails, I guess, right? And we also have some closing remarks, right? Do stay and mingle.
Well, can I just have one last remark that I like to say is, I came here right before lunch, so I heard a lot of panelists. I think this is fantastic. I want to appreciate this. But one thing I always tell people, and I think we live it every day, is if you don't ask, you don't get. No is a gift. No is never a disappointment. No is a gift. Why? You move on to the next thing. So do ask.
Thank you so much.